Okay, so yes, welcome to the fire element. And I did actually title this the wizard archetypal energy of the fire element, because fire is definitely a transformative, hi Huey, a transformative energy. As we know, it's like you throw a log in the fire and all of a sudden it's transformed into this amazing energy. And sometimes that energy can be warming and nourishing. And sometimes that energy can get out of control and get a little impatient or destructive. Or sometimes that energy can be, say, a little bit wet. Maybe it's just, it's got some other dynamics happening and it's not heating up as much as it could be. So, that's a little bit of an indication of when we're working with and balancing any of the elements, we can't think of them, on their own, because there's always a dynamic and an interaction between all of them. So let's see if I can actually go to my next slide. Yeah, so this is quite a few years ago, I did a series on this. So I did do a bit of an introduction on what the 5-element theory is. I don't know that I'm actually going to go over all of this, but needs to say it's a very ancient system. And it's what I'd call a micro-macro system. So this is kind of interesting because it looks at the history and the maturity, the 2nd or 1st century BCE. So, that's a little bit, it's been around for a while. And I think that anything that endures for as long as this system has endured certainly has some resonance of truth for us. And it's been, I'm fascinated by the system, and I've studied a fair amount of the history of it, and that it really arose from this macro view of looking at society as a whole. And it was used in military strategy and political strategy and, all these different arts like Qigong, Tai Chi, Feng Shui, and then, modern or like traditional Chinese medicine integrates this theory, and there's actually styles of acupuncture that are actually called 5-element acupuncture. So it has a lot of value to us. And yeah, body talk, which is what I practice. My name is Marlene Eales. For those of you who don't know me, I think everybody knows me and I know you, but Body Talk integrates a lot because Dr. John Beltime, who founded Body Talk, uses, his background is acupuncture and the understanding of this dynamic, and then AcuNect. I think that this is like the fundamental concepts of the 5 elements, like everything is connected. We are not separate from our environment. If we were, we'd have a problem breathing and eating and being nourished, so it's like it helps us to understand the dynamics of us in our environment. And so the concept here is that everything can be divided. Really, it's coming out of what would be referred to as the void, or just a whole existence, and then divided into yin yang, masculine, feminine, and then further divided into these 5 elements. As a means of understanding the world and our internal selves. So that's really what I focus on here. And so this is just an overview of all of the different elements, and they're one of the terms that's used a lot with traditional 5 elements is concordances. So it's like just their aspects, like what does wood govern? Liver, gallbladder energy, the emotion of anger. And fire, which is what we're going to be focusing on. So I included heart and small intestine, but there's a little bit more to that: heart, small intestine, as well as in the meridians, as well as the pericardium meridian and the triple heater or triple burner meridians. So there's 4 associated with the fire element, as opposed to the rest of them. I mean, water is kind of associated with conception vessel, but we're not going to get into that today. So I will go a little bit into that just because it's interesting. And then there's also these cycles, and I say there's two main cycles. There are more, but the two main cycles that are, just because they're primary cycles. So the first is a sort of a natural cycle. It's like, and so if you look at each element is associated with the season. And so it's the progression of the seasons and then what those seasons represent. So if we think about, water, we're in the north hemisphere, we're coming out of that sense of being contracted and being very inward. It's like the seeds and being inward. And then as we move into spring, we're moving into the wood element, which is expansion and contraction and the force of growth. And then as we move into the summer, that is the fire element, and that is this maximum expansion, and it's that movement towards the sun. So it's, each, and then metal to, autumn. So we start to contract again and then back into, so it's always about cycles, always about movement and transitions, because nothing is ever still, right? So that's the natural or Sheng cycle. And then there's the control cycle. And so I've brought in an example of that because to me, I so appreciated learning about the elements in and of themselves, but one of the challenges that I had was understanding the associations between and the dynamics between the elements. So that's something I wanted to share a little bit with you in this, and also just to refresh my own memory. So, this is just going to a little bit of detail. So it's like the control cycle. So if wood turns to fire and then fire turns to earth, that's your natural cycle. And then to preserve the integrity of fire, wood must control earth. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. I just wanted to bring this in. But so, here we are in fire, and fire represents the heart, our Shen, our spirit, so our personality. So it's like the middle stage between heaven and earth. And one of the words that's associated, I think it's like, when we talk about being appropriate, oftentimes that can be in relation to a fear or inhibitions, but at a heart level, it's really about being present and listening and responding to what's happening in that very moment. And so, it's like, even anger, it's funny, the thought of anger comes in, because if we get angry and that becomes kind of out of control, anger is like that nature, it's like an out of control. But if we actually take some deep breaths and center ourselves in our heart with that anger, that can actually just bring that down. And it can bring us back into the moment and help to, if not contain that, but use that anger more as to generate and expand the emotions of compassion. So it just a way of kind of looking at that, how the heart and the quality of this Shen is about propriety. It's about what is appropriate in that response, in that interaction, in that moment. And so here I just did, I just wanted to do a little bit of an introduction on some of the qualities, and, in Body Talk, we refer to them as consciousness aspects. So, what's the job of these different areas? So the heart, and I just listed a whole bunch here, and instead of separating, what we often refer to as pathology, I just included them all in the same categories. So we have within the heart, we have, harmony and peace and intimacy, but then we also have this control and rage, which is this fire energy being out of control. And, one of the things that I think about with that, for example, is, I'm thinking about it because personally I've had a week of this impatience. Anyone? So, impatience, what is that? It's like wanting something to happen sooner than it's supposed to happen, or wanting somebody else to do something we want to do, because it's just, we have to get things moving. And it's a very sort of agitated type of state, right? And out of that can come control in a way. It's like, I want to control things because I'm impatient with the pace of everything and everybody else. And so that could, that's an imbalance. That can be an imbalance in the heart. And And then out of that, we want to control things, and even rage can come out of that. So I just wanted to share that quality of that impatience, and, you know, how might that express itself in the physical experience, that it's like a rapid heartbeat, at its worst, a heart attack. You know, that kind of like push, 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 and then all of a sudden the heart just can't take it anymore. So just really interesting to see the qualities and the emotions and the thoughts, and how that may express itself in the body. And then the small intestine, you know, which is really the partner of the heart, and ideally in service of the heart energy. Because you know, one of the big things about the small intestine is that it relates to our intellect. Well, if our intellect is all left brain all the time, it's all like needing to know and but it's actually not grounded in connecting with the emotional and empathy and compassion qualities of the heart, and that quality of patience. Then that intellect can kind of get out of control as well, right? And even like super sharp or fast people may even use that as a means of controlling others, or trying to get, you know, using their patience. Like, it's just again, looking at it in that dynamic. So, and then I also included, of course, the small intestine is about nourishment. And then I included that separation, right? Because it's like the discernment. It's like, what's good for me and what's not? Like, what do I need and what do I don't need? And ultimately that is going to serve our heart energy. If our level of discernment, even at an intellectual level, but also in a nourishment level, is like, what do I need? And in this environment, is this a good environment for me? Or do I need to, you know, potentially change this environment? And so that level of discernment, but then, you know, we could say the pathology of that is the self-poisoning. It's like letting it all in, you know, like not able to release what we need to release. Or, you know, and it's just something popped up here because I had never thought about it in this way, but you know, oftentimes we hear about leaky gut syndrome, or we hear, you know, the latest and greatest diagnosis is SERB. Which is serve. No, isn't that like, anyway, that's not the word I was, but it's like, you know, just major intestinal problems. But it's like, is that an over intellectualization? Is it taking in too much information and not actually able to discern it because of the nature of what's happening in our environment? And, you know, is all of that information, is it serving us, or is it actually, is it overwhelming us? Is it too much? So is that poisoning us? You know, so these are some interesting questions to think about when we're thinking about the fire element. And then the pericardium, you know, and the pericardium is at the physical level, that sac that protects your heart. It's like a protective energy. So of course it's going to relate to your heart protection. And I can't remember where I learned this, but it's like looking at the triple heater and the pericardium as two protectors in a way, or two levels of our relationship. So the triple heater is kind of like the outside barrier. So let's say it's, you know, it's like the fence around your house, you know, so it's like, it's where you meet your neighbors and people that aren't super close to you, but the pericardium is more of your intimate relationships. And so I just listed a few different things because the triple heater also, it, you know, really represents these three centers of heat that generate energy for our bodies. And so it does correlate to our endocrine system. And then the nature of joy. And so this is kind of interesting because I could really expand on this, but I'm not going to, because I think the session will do that for us. But, you know, some of these qualities of, like, you know, the joy of succeeding in something or achieving something, you know, that just that sense of satisfaction that comes from that, but also that ability to be in the moment. And, you know, spontaneity, to me, I used to associate spontaneity with excitement, but then I kind of tapped into that a little bit more. And it's not just about excitement. It's about being able to just follow your heart. It's about being tuned into that intuition and just going for it without necessarily having to understand at an intellectual level why you have to do something or respond in a certain way. And then also the joy of learning. And you know, we're built for this. Like, we're built to learn. You know, if you think about it, it's like we're built to enjoy learning, because learning keeps us alive. Like learning literally keeps our body growing and our minds growing, and it keeps a passion for life. And that's also very much about the heart energy. And so if we don't have that passion for learning, then and that yearning for learning, then you know what's going to happen? Like we're just going to and we're not going to be well. We may get depressed. You know, we may find that we don't have our sense of purpose anymore, or we're not aligned. So this is part of that joy component of that. And you know, why many of you, I think, even are participating in this and are in the healing modalities, because even if you're not practicing, but you're learning because it's a joy for you and you recognize that it fulfills you in some way. And then this, you know, the ultimate expression of joy is bliss. And a sense of deep connection, which, you know, I think is part of this whole journey of us wanting in some way to get there, right? So, all right, so here's our wizard, and even the magician group session that I did a while ago, it's still working with this kind of energy, and so it's this transformative energy, and it's also about, you know, I would say spirit. So, you know, I didn't bring this up in the wood element, but, you know, if you look at like the different sort of mental qualities that these elements have, the wood element is definitely that kind of mental level, that organization, that planning, that vision, that type of thing. Whereas the fire energy or the wizard is like a transformative energy. So it is, and it's spiritual in nature, and it is like, you know, I was thinking about this in terms of like my friend Augie and I have been doing these group sessions together, and we're very different personalities, and I definitely have associated myself with the fire element, and part of what, you know, that fire does is it actually brings together people and brings together things to create transformation. So it's like bringing those things together as an alchemist or a wizard. And when we're talking about this, like our sense of divine purpose and aligning, we all talk about wanting to align with our sense of purpose, right? So it's like being able to tune into what inspires us, and what inspires us is often helps us to align with that greater sense of purpose. And then also this transformational power of awareness and love. You know, it's like when something is going wrong, and it's the gift of forgiveness and the gift of love and compassion within that, and how that can really transform a situation. And so I just wanted to bring up more of the character aspects of this. You know, the fire element, often if you wanted to look at like a persona, they are public speakers or spiritual leaders, or, you know, it's like that kind of like inspirational speakers is probably one of the better ways of putting it. So how that responds in your body, that part of you that inspires you, that fires you up, that taps into your own inner passion and that charisma. And it's kind of a larger than life energy at times, you know, and also there's a sensory quality to it, right? It's like I said sensational because that is sensory. It's like really being tuned in at that sensory level. And then some of the challenges, you know, anxiety, distress, and anxiety is kind of interesting. I would say, yeah, it kind of relates to the pericardium, but it's like, it's fear. It's like an excess fear or an excess nervous energy, or if like there's too much fire burning, then there's a lack of sleep. So insomnia. And then out of insomnia can come this nervous exhaustion. And then at a physical level too, it's like rashes and excess sweating. So sweat is part of this. And then heart palpitations. So, you know, some of those, the imbalances when there's an excess or a deficiency here. And this is where this is the one thing that I wanted to share with you guys, because in looking at, you know, this relationship between the elements, and I hope you can see all this. So when we're looking at, you know, and when I say a pattern of depression, like this is one framework. This is not a diagnosis of what depression is. Like everyone's very different, right? But this is just a good example of, so, you know, well, first of all, what is depression? And certainly we could say that depression is a loss of enthusiasm. And, you know, and so, you know, all the things that you were just talking about in those positive attributes of fire, it's losing that passion or that enthusiasm, not having enjoyment. And then also a feeling of not deserving. And so those are qualities, and depression is often associated with the metal element and grief and holding on. So, you know, I brought up, I just put this chart here with the fire element and the fire in that control cycle. So the fire controls metal. And in this dynamic, when we're looking at, it's like, okay, so even if we're depressed, but we're actually staying super busy, and, you know, I'm fine and I don't have time to stop. And I'm so guilty of this, right? So it's, and I don't have time to stop because I don't have time to feel, because I can't get in touch with. So, you know, we might be seeking constant entertainment. We might be, you know, looking for different things to keep our minds and our bodies busy so that we don't have to feel. And we don't have to maybe look at the deeper sadness that's there, or process that, or let it go. So in this context, it's like a possible balancing for that is balancing that fire element into the metal element, or even like a subsession of that. So that may come up. But also, you know, at a conscious level, like intentionally seeking out those things that used to, if you're in a state of depression, that used to bring you joy, that like just it using that intention. And then also breath and breathing, because of the metal element. Often we're not taking life in. We're not able to take life in. So, oh, okay. And then I just wanted to share this with you guys too, because many of you know Augie Papik, who does Body Talk and Body Intuitive. We have an upcoming anti-aging and regeneration group session series. So if you're interested in that, you can just email me. So I'm just going to end this and we'll get started on our meditation. And unless anybody has any questions, you know, why don't I do that? Yes. Okay, I'm not sure about the yes, but hi, Sherry. Hi, everyone. So if you don't have any questions, then we can get started on the meditation. All right. At least I think that's what we're going to do. So wherever you are, if you're comfortable, yeah, just get a little more comfortable and just start to tap into your breath. And speaking of, I'm going to take a sip of my water and take a breath too. All right. So yeah, just as you, you know, you're welcome to close your eyes as you tap in and connect with your breath, and just allow your awareness to travel to anywhere in your body that's just really calling you. You know, if there's a little discomfort, if there is some tension or holding, just allow your awareness and your breath to travel to that area, and just breathe into that area. And then as you continue to breathe, just be aware of the movement that your breath creates throughout your body. So you can start in the area around your lungs and your heart and your back. And with each inhalation and each exhalation, just being aware of the movement in your body. And the expansion of that, and then the contraction and whatever motion is happening in your body with your breath. And then expanding that awareness down into your abdomen, into your mid and lower back area. And really connecting with that gentle movement that your breath allows in your body. And continuing to move your awareness into your upper legs and your hip area. And just noticing the slightest movement that happens as you're breathing in life and exhaling to make room for the next moment. And bringing that awareness into your knees and allowing your breath and that gentle movement to just slightly expand the energy right down into the center of your knees. Imagine that your knees are breathing and releasing. Continuing that awareness down into your calves and the fronts of your shins, right out into your skin, as if your whole body is breathing. And continuing to take that awareness down into your ankles. And again, right into the joints, right into the very center of the joints of your ankles, just bringing that breath of expansion into the joints and then releasing that breath out of your joints. And then breathing right down into your feet, into all the little tiny bones that extend up your arches from your toes. Imagine that you're breathing right into all the spaces and the tissues in your feet, in between your toes, right down to the very soles of your feet. And then right in the arch at the base of your foot, imagine that you're breathing right in through the arch and energizing the soles of your feet with breathing in that life force and that energy. And as you breathe in through your feet, just bring that breath and energy up into your feet, into the bones, into the joints. And continuing as you breathe through your feet, bringing the energy into the bones of your lower legs, into the most crystalline, the most dense area of your legs, of your bones, of your body, and back into the joints of your knees, and then traveling from the joints of your knees up into the large bones in your legs and how they connect with your hips and support you. Bringing that awareness and breath right into the hip joints, and just breathe and release into your hip joints. And allow your body just to really kind of fall into that breath, into that sense of support in both of your hip joints. Those bones that support you and that tissue that supports the bones. Breathing up into your hip joints and then into the hips. And again, just allowing the gentle motion of your breath to gently rock your body as you breathe into your bones and your hips. Bringing that breath and awareness into the sacrum, that little upside down triangle bone at the very base of your spine. And allowing that to gently move with each breath. Continuing to bring your awareness and energy slowly up your entire spine, starting in the lumbar spine and just breathing into that area, creating space, and release. Moving up into the lower back area, into the thoracic area. And breathing in and just moving up gently, breathing right through your spinal energy, your spinal column. Continuing into the middle back and up into the top of your back, just where your shoulders begin. And then from the center of your spine, allow your breath and awareness to expand from your entire spine outwards across your back and right through the deep tissues of your back, through the back of your spinal, your rib cage, as your rib cage and the fascia support the movement of your lungs and support your breath. Allow that expansion into your shoulder blades and just really make space and allow your breath to travel and expand through the space within your shoulder blades. Allowing your posture to shift and change with the breath as it moves into the upper back. Continuing to move upwards into each shoulder and right into the depth of your shoulders, into the joints, into the intricate joints that have all of these little protective mechanisms that allow you to move your arms around and flex and give you strength and flexibility. Breathing into the shoulder joints and then expanding that breath out to the muscles that surround your shoulders and your upper arms. And continuing to bring your awareness slowly down into your upper arms and feel your arms begin to get slightly heavy. As you breathe in and allow release. And then bringing that breath and awareness into your elbow joints and just allowing your arms to let go so that you can breathe right into those joints that provide flexibility and movement, strength and release. Continuing to breathe down into your forearms, and even if you'd like to just stretch them out a little bit or just allow them to just be heavy and release. And then your breath awareness, bringing that into your wrists, where your arm meets your hand and breathing into the wrist joints and all the tiny little intricate connections within your wrists. And continuing to expand your breath and awareness from the wrists and the joints in the wrists into the center points of your hands. So traveling right through your hands, through the fingers, feeling your hands become a little bit heavier as they let go, and then bringing your awareness right into the cup of your palms in your hands and continuing to breathe into this area, into these hand chakras, which are really an extension of your heart chakra. With the next breath, bringing your breath through your heart chakra in your hands, up through your arms, through your shoulders, bringing that breath and awareness into your chest area, allowing your chest to expand and release. From your chest area, bring your awareness and your breath up into your neck. And just allow the breath to move and expand right in the center of your neck. All the little lymph nodes within your neck helping to cleanse and protect, and your thyroid gland energizing you, and your larynx supporting your voice, and up into underneath your jaw. Breathe into and energize underneath your jaw, and then right into your TMJ jaw joints. Allow your breath and awareness to expand and release within each jaw joint. You can imagine a circular energy within each jaw joint as it is energizing, but also releasing tension. And this travels back into your ears and then all around the very base of your skull. And then right up the back of your head to the very top of your head. So imagine that you are now breathing through the top of your head. And as you inhale that energy and breath through the top of your head, it moves to energize right inside of your brain, bringing clarification and creativity and release. So the first priority of this session is bringing me to your aura. And this is the way I perceive your aura is like an extension of your chakras. And so I'm tapping into the heart chakra layer of your aura. And the priority here is to balance the masculine and feminine qualities within the heart chakra aura. So what comes up here is like protection, balancing protection and balancing receptivity. So defense and receiving. So both of those qualities within the heart, within your protective aura. And then this brings me right back into your heart energy. And into the pericardium energy, the protective energy, the energy of intimacy. And so there is some energetic, emotional scar tissue that's coming in for balancing. And the scar tissue is in relation to events, emotional memories of being betrayed. And so this is a betrayal at a like a very close level. So when we've been disappointed, let down, felt that we've been betrayed by those we love. And the priority to balance this scar tissue at this level. And then there's a parallel coming up on this, which takes me to your back. And it's also related to, it's like emotions, emotional defense, but it has to do with hidden fear, of intimacy and vulnerability. And so parceling this formula and anchoring this whole formula into your heart for individuation. And then linking into both underarms. And going into a subsession in both underarms. And it's like a subconscious level worry within the heart energy. And this is, it's like, I want to say it's caregiving energy. It's like worry about those that we love. It's like a coping mechanism of kind of hiding it and stuffing it into our underarms. And so there's that component of coping with that worry. Okay, so here I'm actually linking into your right knee. And as the kidney energy governs the knees, it's also the water element. And so it's like a component of balancing from fire and water here. And this is about will, like willpower, to move forward. And the worry that's hidden, like I'm getting like a energy of depression. So this link into your knee is, especially the right knee, which is such a yang, it's like moving forward. And it's, you know, having the will to step, to get through this, but also to move through it and beyond it. And then I have to actually go more into the physical, anatomical aspect of the knee here, in as it represents stability in moving forward, despite this emotional upheaval and worry and fear of betrayal in it. So it's like this whole last formula linking in to be stabilized, and how that expresses itself in that very physical level. So having the stability to move forward. And not just moving forward though, it's like really, it's moving through emotions. So it's not stepping out of them. It's being able to have the will to move through them, to experience and move through that with stability. And there's I'm bringing in some reciprocals. So the reciprocal to your right knee is your left elbow. So that's coming up as a support. And there's a little definition here on the left elbow. And the definition is through the colon meridian, large intestine meridian, which runs through the elbow, is fear of losing control of emotions. And the fear of that vulnerability, that intimacy. If I lose control, then I'm going to show myself here, and I'm afraid of doing that. I'm afraid of losing control. So it's like that part of the story here, in this balancing, in that reciprocal balancing. Okay, so then I'm going into the Chinese clock. And the Chinese clock is a 24-hour clock that runs into our period. So each of the 12 organ meridians has a 2-hour period. And so it's another way of balancing the meridians and the aspects of those meridians at a more specific level, other than, you know, instead of doing acupuncture, it's being able to focus in on those. So that's what's coming up here for this. It's an earth. There's some earth stuff coming in. So earth element is as the vessel. You know, it's a great way of putting it. I think it's like, it's what, you know, it's what holds us. It's what supports us. It's what makes us feel grounded. And so it's a vessel. And in that sense, it's like it can make us feel supported. And so that's the energy that's coming in here. And in that way too, it can relate to that anxiety, fear and anxiety of things not feeling controlled, and feeling, yeah, like that, those fears. So something about the earth element within the Chinese clock. So I'm going into spleen time. So spleen energy being part of the earth energy, and spleen energy is an upright energy. So spleen is, somebody else has got to start doing the yawning. So spleen energy is one of the things that it does is it literally brings the energy up from the earth to support us. So when we're talking about any kind of like, you know, at a physical level, prolapses and those kind of things, that is, that can be an imbalance in that spleen energy, that upright energy. But also then it's that also that emotional feeling of support as well, right? That kind of energy. So we're going into the spleen. It's 9 to 11 in the morning is the spleen meridian high time. And I'm actually going more specific here. I'm going to 10 a.m. So within the 2-hour cycle, you actually have like within its own cycle, like kind of an up and a down, an arc. And this is the height of that spleen energy balancing within that. And that's it. We're going to tap this out. So I'm just going to ask that, I'm just going to find out if there's hand positions. So one hand over your heart. And if you'd like to join me in tapping, gentle tapping over your head, over your heart with deep breaths, and over your belly. Okay, so as many of you know, when I do these group sessions, I set like a theme or an intention, but I can't, you know, I have to go with what's the priority. So we may diverge a little bit here. So I'm just gonna, I just have to go with what comes up as a priority for the group. And excuse me. And so the priority, what's coming up is the ankles, your ankles. And again, from like a focus from the consciousness aspect, or, you know, the role and that reflection in body mind. So when you look at your ankles and when you think about your ankles, you know, what do, right? Like they have flexibility. They're helping you to move forward in life. They're helping you to decide which way to go. So, you know, that physiology and that function also reflects in our own decision-making processes. So that's what's coming up, something about the ankles and decision-making. And there's a permissions balancing here. So there's just something that wants to shift that's been holding on here. So I'm just going to tap into this. It's a belief. It's taking me into active memory beliefs, but I'm going into another system. I'm bringing in AccuNet. It's taking me to the wood element. And it's fear of making the wrong decision. So it's fear of decision making, but it's more specific into a fear of making the wrong decision that needs to be balanced. And this is specifically through the gallbladder energy. And so the gallbladder meridian runs through the ankle on the outer part of your foot. So that's the first thing that wants to be balanced here in this permissions. Is there anything else here? Yeah, I have to link this into your right amygdala, which is like a strong memory center, emotional memory center, and do an unwind of memories where you feel like you made a bad decision or you made the wrong decision. And the emotional content charge of that needs to shift out to support this balancing, this permissions. And then there's this other level coming into your minor nose chakra. So the nose chakra is about our sense of smell, and our sense of smell relates to our ability to sniff out danger, to discern. And so that it's coming in as another resource. It's like fine tuning that ability to sniff things out so that there's more self-trust is what's coming up here in your decision-making processes. Okay, so that's the permissions. I don't have to, I'm going to keep going here with this. So from there, we're going into body chemistry. And it's a body chemistry allergy. So when we're balancing allergies and body talk, we're not diagnosing. We're just highlighting something that is creating some kind of strong reaction to help to balance that out. And I'm going into more specific here. Is it something in the environment? Oh yeah, this is about vaccinations. Okay, so when I say it's in the environment, I mean it's like the concept or the idea of vaccinations and a strong physiological response to that that's wanting to be balanced out. So, you know, this could relate to your opinions on vaccination, your like whatever that is that's creating this strong response and helping to bring that into some harmony in relation to decision making. Okay, and then linking this into the pancreatic reflex point, which is an acupuncture point that has many internal connections for creating a sense of overall balance and nourishment. So, you know, we're definitely working with the earth element in this as well. And you know, in its, I guess the technical translation for this is the great embrace. So this point is about helping to feel that mood balance, helping to, you know, work with our blood sugar balance and our sense of overall balance. But also there's this level of nourishment that comes with this, is feeling nourished and being nourished, not just by food, but by life. Hence the name Great Embrace. And so this is where we're going to tap this formula in. And I'm actually going to have you address this point if you would like to join me. So the pancreatic reflex point, I'll show you where it is. Actually, I may even, do I have my chart, my acupuncture chart nearby? No, I don't. So if you go 4 fingers, you put your arm down by the side of your body, you go 4 fingers down, and about 4 fingers down is, you're looking for a point that's a little bit tender, and you're going to address that point. And yeah, and if it doesn't feel comfortable for you, don't do it. But that's how we're going to tap this in. You want to address that on both sides while taking deep breaths, please. Okay, so okay, so I'm just tapping into the emotion of sadness. I'm just going to see if it's a theme or what about sadness would like to be observed. I talked about joy, maybe sadness is like, hold on, you talked about joy, but you didn't talk about me. And I can't exist, or joy can't exist without me. Because if we don't know what sadness is, it's very difficult to know what the opposite is, right? Like, it's about that kind of balance and awareness. So let's see what comes up about sadness here. Okay, so it's coming in as a theme, so an energy that's going to inform the next formula. And it's coming in, we're going to go to your Wei Qi, your protective energy. And specifically protection from other people's sadness. So that, balancing that empathy. That, some people, especially when they are sensitive, can be spongy. We can pick up a lot of other people's emotions. So this is about helping to balance your Wei Qi, your protective energy, to other people's sadness. And then linking into hydration of the aspects of the fire element within your body. So your heart, your circulatory system, your small intestine, there's quite a number of muscles that are governed. Even your thyroid gland, your teres minor, these little sort of hidden muscles behind your shoulders, the abdominal muscles, the quadriceps. And it's this whole hydration is being defined by awareness, self-awareness. And self-knowledge. So it's like that of being aware of ourselves, knowing ourselves. Yeah. And then this is linking up into your thymus gland, and again, it's that it's balancing it, and this is not just in your thymus gland; it's also in your back. So there's something about the heart protection and protecting at the back as well here. So that's what's coming up. It's like when we look at defensive mechanisms that we have, when we get our back up, there it is. I knew it was going to come in. It's like, but it's coming up both through your your thyroid as well as your back. So that sense of I'm getting my back up because I feel like I have to defend myself. So there's that quality of both the front and the back that's coming up for balancing here. And so, you know, when I'm at this level, this defense mechanisms, this is this quality of like, I need to protect what and defend what I believe. And this is the stronger we hold to a belief, it's not about the belief itself. It's about needing to protect the belief from somebody else, like not having that belief challenged by somebody else, that they ultimately should believe what we believe and they shouldn't challenge what we believe. And so that all of those qualities that we get defensive about, those become triggers, and those triggers create stress. Those triggers, you know, there's a reason it comes up in our thymus gland, because those triggers create defensiveness, and that can create an imbalance in our immune system because we're defended. And if we feel like we have to defend, then at some level there's maybe a questioning of our self-worth or our self-acceptance. And like, you know, if we don't need to defend, if we don't have those triggers, we can believe what we believe and you can believe what you believe. And there's just far more grace in that state. And it starts to reduce that kind of anger or desire to control and getting our back up and needing to protect ourselves. So it's, you know, that bigger picture, that's how it influences this particular balancing. And really anchoring this into that wisdom of your heart to individuation. And we're going to tap this whole thing out. So yeah, again, one hand over your heart and deep breath under this umbrella of the emotion of sadness, and balancing your Wei Qi specifically to other people's sadness. And yeah, deep breaths, please. And then this whole hydration of all the concordances of the fire element. And then finally, this consciousness balancing on being able to let go of that, having your back up, that defensive mechanism, the defensive patterns that reflect and express themselves in your self-acceptance and immune system. Yeah.
Excuse me, Linda.
Yes.
Are you able to show, because all I could see is from the shoulders up. I can't see anything else.
Oh, yes, that's because I'm sitting.
Oh, yeah, so I'm not sure what you're doing there.
Oh, okay. I'm doing tapping. So when I'm doing a tapping, I'm tapping over my head, my heart, and my belly.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
That's to help facilitate the formula. It's basically telling your brain to wake up to what we're doing.
Right.
The heart is storing that information in the heart, and then tapping over the belly is helping to digest.
Okay.
Sorry, Lydia.
That's okay. No problem. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. So I'm just going to tap in and ask if there's anything else. So for those of you that I would like to do this, it's so interesting. I don't know. Honestly, it's like, it's just what's coming up. So there's like doing some pulls. Okay. So for this one, Lydia, yes, I will stand up. So, and when I say this is, you know, this is not my area of expertise at all. I'm just going to make this suggestion because it just came up, maybe because it had something to do with those, the underarms, but doing pulls like this. So it's like actually doing this type of exercise of pulling back, and that actually helps the circulation. and lymphatic circulation within your underarms. So if you feel inspired to do that, then you can go ahead, because it's about that whole lymphatic circulation. But the lymph can, it also stores emotions, it stores tension and memories and stuff like that. So it's like helping to get that flow for that movement and emotion, and probably help with the shoulders too. So, but again, everyone has different health stuff. So use your discretion and judgment on that if you feel inclined to do that. And yes, thank you very much for joining today. And I will, I'll do another 5-element session, probably not next week, just because right now my life just kind of got really crazy busy with some family stuff. So, so it'll probably be in 2 weeks, and we'll be doing the earth element. And the earth element is, well, it's like when we talk about that feeling supported, that is earth for sure. And earth element and the qualities of earth can really, when we're balancing those, it can really help with anxiety, with an excess fear. One of the biggest things with earth is overthinking and worrying, and how that can impact our well-being and health, and even down to the inflammatory level. So there's lots of benefit to earth. And the other thing that just kind of pops into my mind is the term integrity with earth. Integrity is this type of reciprocity. I'm in integrity if I make an agreement, and it's what I think I just did, right? So I said to you guys, I'd love to do another group session next week, but that's not being in integrity, because I know I'm not going to be able to fulfill that obligation. So by saying in 2 weeks, I'm honoring myself and honoring my commitment to doing this. So that's earth element in a nutshell. Like, that's a wonderful way of putting it. It's about, really finding that balance and flow in our agreements with ourselves and others. And, also having flexibility and fluidity in that, because as we know, life happens. But the more awareness we have and the more support we give ourselves and we feel, the more we're able to fulfill that for ourselves, and therefore be of more service. And so in any line of, and if we're caregiving, or we're helping others, anything like this,